I want to cut across right now, viewers. Back to our guests joining me. We just spoke with Pinaki Rajan Chakravarti. I want to cut across to Air Marshal Sanjeev Kapoor. And Air Marshal Kapoor, if you look at the latest developments, we just heard the ambassador there, of Israel to India, and he elucidated that this is going to go down to the end. And America and Israel, despite the economic pressure of it, because the Strait of Hormuz is shut, despite the diplomatic pressure of it, with the optics of Gulf countries being attacked, there will be, that will in itself be a pressure point. But he seemed very clear that they are in it for the long haul. It's not a matter of just few days. They're going to go all the way down. The spotlight, the focus now will be on Iran. Do they have the kind of stamina? Do they have the kind of firepower to last it through? Sir, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Good evening to you and fellow panelists and your viewers. This is a well planned out strategy, in my opinion, after the attacks of 7th October 1923, wherein Hamas attacked Israel. If you recall, in 2024, in the month of October, there was an operation launched by Israel to neutralize Iranian air defense and war waging capability, and that was called the Days of Repentance. That operation was called the Days of Repentance. It had about 120 aeroplanes going across 1,500 kilometers and striking the targets in Iran. There was a lot of uproar, but in my opinion, the weakening had begun at that stage. Next, fast forward to last year, the Operation Rising Lion in the month of June, in which the US B-2 bombers also participated and took out 3 facilities, nuclear facilities of Iran, and they brought in the war manufacturing capabilities to a halt. That after June, once this 12-day operation was halted, there was an internal turmoil within the Iranian public, wherein the local issues of inflation, high price rises, hijab, the torture to the common people, the people came on streets, and the final ugly face came up in end December and January this year. Thereafter, it is a gradual weakening which began from 2024 at a weak stage, wherein the Russia is embroiled with the conflict with Ukraine. The supplies from China have been coming in, but China, as we have seen in the past, be it Syria, be it Venezuela, be it any country in Africa, doesn't come openly in support of that country. There's a tacit support. The tacit support of China continues with Iran, but a weakened Iran with the top leadership being taken out, and now they are willing to engage this. Iran, in its desperation, in my appreciation, is attacking all the countries in the Middle East where the Americans are based, telling them that we have been warning you that do not give your land to the Americans to attack us. And now that we have been attacked, we will retaliate. Right. So this has put the complete Middle East geographically in a turmoil. Places like Dubai, which got people because of safety. The Dubai is marketing, the UAE's marketing strategy was that this is the safest place in the world. Come and invest here, come and stay here. Has taken a beating in last 24 hours. So this whole thing is being turned upside down. And a lot of panelists in other forums also did say that it will be a short, swift war. But in my appreciation, the end goal is not only the regime change, but like the ambassador said, to have the total grip of oil in Gulf of Hormuz. Now, the Gulf of this belt controls around 25 million barrels of oil which transit every day. Just visualize what I'm saying. 25 million barrels of oil pass through this channel, and this has a direct proportion on the energy requirements of all the countries, including India, China. With Venezuela already taken out by the American leadership in the month of January, and February they have attacked Iran. The prices of oil will go up, and the US, which wants to become the controlling agency for the oil is the other. So change of regime, control of
Right.
oil, and also this thing in Middle East are the three options, in my opinion, for which they are working now.
Right. Well, those are the options that it's working, but is it as fantastical as this, as a military checkpoint that each option is going to be exercised in time? Because history stands testimony, General Syed Atta Hasnan, that sometimes even taking out the senior leadership or the supreme leader is a very simplistic answer to a very, very complex problem. You can't do it by the virtue of sheer air power. You will need boots on ground with the kind of commentary that is coming in, even from the President of America, suggesting that the onus lies now on the streets for the people to rise up against the Iranian regime. That's not going to happen because the Iranian regime is very well entrenched in society as well, where the Revolutionary Guard is concerned. So it's not going to come in from the people. You can't really do it from air power. It also, of course, depends on how much stamina does Iran actually have to fight a long, protracted battle.
Thank you very much, Mita. Thank you so much for inviting me. And your last statement was the most important statement. How much stamina does Iran have to fight this out as a lasting battle? Let's start with the first part of it. There is total asymmetry between the Iranian military capability and the combined capability of the United States and Israel. The United States and Israel can bring state-of-the-art weaponry, technology of any kind. You've seen it and demonstrated. These pictures are demonstrating it to you. The kind of penetrations that they have achieved. This notion, even I had a perception some time ago when a lot of people said, Iran is not Venezuela. I used to also repeat it, ad nauseum, I used to keep repeating it. But now when I'm looking at this, I'm realizing that actually Iran is virtually Venezuela. Because the asymmetry is so intense. Now, Iran has got two options primarily. One is to inflame the passions of the streets themselves, try and bring back religious fervor, and it is there very much also in favor of the regime, and resist to the last man, last bullet. That is going to be suicidal because it will cause a lot of dismay for everyone, turbulence in the region, and the kind of things that they have been resorting to of firing upon the capitals of Gulf
General
countries,
Hasnan,
etc. Yeah.
But if you allow me, General Hasnan, because Venezuela was not America trying to effect a regime change. You had his deputy, take over in a very seamless fashion. This is not Iran. Iran is a theocratic, ideologically staunch state where the regime is concerned. You already have someone who's far, who has taken the place of the supreme leader, Khamenei, who's far more religious, far more fanatical, far more conservative than the supreme leader who was taken out.
Thank you, but let me continue, please. I'm just trying to give you a theoretical aspect to it. When I say that Venezuela is not Iran or Iran is not Venezuela, I'm not going into literal terms. I'm trying to give you a broad comparison. I'm talking to you about asymmetry. The kind of technological asymmetry which existed between the United States and Venezuela. And that was demonstrated there. That same asymmetry exists here. And the lasting power of Iran is highly questionable. Who is in support with them? The Russians, the North Koreans, the Chinese. I mean, they've provided them with a set of missiles and they have an internal drone capability. But is that what they're going to resist with? So, to my mind, there are two choices, as I told you. They've got the choice of resisting this to the last man, last bullet, which is going to be a suicidal thing. Absolutely. They're hoping like hell to able to bring out the people into the streets so that there is total resistance against a potential regime change on the ground being affected by Israeli American intelligence. That is what the efforts will go on at the moment. Or the other thing is, like it happens in many such cases, all of a sudden you will find a capitulation. An understanding and a perception that it is better to put an end to it because the capability does not exist. This is exactly what happened with Saddam Hussein, if you remember. The mother of all battles I will fight, which is what Saddam Hussein had said. What happened to the mother of all battles? The Republican Guard capitulated on the first day of the war itself almost. So these are two options which are existing in front. I personally think the United States and Israel will continue to remain at it and continue to send home the message, because they seem to have now broken ground, made the early entry into it. Boots on ground is ruled out. There's no question of boots on ground out here. You can't make a boots on ground entry into Iran and hope that you can sort of get them to capitulate with that. But repeated use of air power, and this is one case where you cannot just say that air power cannot bring about a regime change. Air power here is going to achieve a lot more than what we may have imagined otherwise.
Well, what can add to that argument is also that because of the sanctions that Iran has had, it really doesn't have that kind of air defense systems in place like other countries.
So I told you, asymmetry, complete asymmetry exists at the moment.
It really doesn't have that. We're going to keep a keen eye on that. I'm going to quickly cut across to news break that's just coming in. Understandably, there have been protests that have taken place across the world, while there is a huge section of the world that is celebrating the taking down of who many suggested was an authoritarian leader, but there is also a huge chunk that is protesting, primarily because Khamenei was not just the supreme leader of Iran, he was the religious, spiritual leader of the Shia community. So in pockets across the world, which has a sizable Shia population, and Iran is one country where you had, which was a Shia Muslim state. And there are now protests protest against the assassination of their religious spiritual leader. On the other hand, of course, there are also protests which are taking place where a cautioning note for a lot of countries on how a leader, an international leader, was taken out in the manner in which he was, despite ongoing talks. But these visuals that are coming in are protests that have spread to Pakistan's capital. Clashes are now reported between pro-Khamenei protesters and Pakistani police in Serena Chowk in Islamabad. Keep in mind, all of this is taking place after the embassy, American embassy in Karachi, was attacked by certain protesters, which resulted in the death of 8 Pakistani protesters. Reportedly, in Islamabad, water cannons and tear gas have been used against the protesters. Situation is rather tense outside the US consulate in Karachi as well, which has claimed the life of 8 Pakistani nationals who were protesting there. These were visuals that were recorded from Pakistan. Like I told you, viewers, images of protest have also come in from across the world. I think we do have with us Mr. All right, we don't have Mr. Hadi Ellis with us, Middle East security expert. We're going to try and cut across to him. I want to just bring in, for a brief while before we cut into a break, Mr. Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti, former Secretary MEA. And Mr. Chakravarti, I want to just, for a moment, for someone who's been the former Secretary of the Ministry of External Affairs in India, it's a tightrope walk where India is concerned. You already have China and Russia diplomatic statements coming out strongly condemning what happened, calling it a violation of international law and justice for India. While China and Russia are allies of Iran, India has been a friend. It's diplomatically puts India in a tight spot, keeping in mind our friendship with Israel. The Prime Minister of India was practically on Israeli soil less than 24 hours before the strike.
That indeed is a factor, because now everybody is saying that PM had gone there just before the strike, and so what was in it, etc. Anyway, those kind of speculation will go on. I would just like to highlight one thing, which is that regime change definition has to be looked into. Whether you want an wholesale change from the clerical establishment to a elected establishment, that would be a wholesale regime change. But what you are seeing here is basically what we would call a leadership change, in the sense that a leader has gone, and along with them some very senior people, but another leader from the same establishment has taken over, a cleric basically. So the Iran is still very much being by this clerical establishment, which is what, of course, the Americans and the Israelis would like to change. And that is why they have put up this Reza Pahlavi, son of the previous Shah in America, to generally excite the public, etc. Now, who will take over? I mean, it's still very unclear. But I'm sure a lot of demonstrations are going to take place. And you don't know. I mean, what happens if these demonstrations get totally charged up and attack the government buildings and take over the president's house, like they did in Sri Lanka, then
Right.
they did it in Bangladesh, then they did it in Nepal. I mean, is it that model that it's being replicated here? That's a question that only time will tell.
Well, that's a question that time will tell. I appreciate all our guests for taking the time out and joining us this evening. Thank you. That's something we continue to debate on India Today, viewers, because what has taken place in the last 24 hours is a tectonic moment in world history. You can call it a seismic shift in Iranian history, but it definitely impacts the world and will go down in the annals of world history as a moment to reckon with, which leads to a larger critical question. Taking out the top leadership, the supreme leader of Iran, will it somewhere down the line bring a torrent of institutional religious change where Iran is concerned, or, would some suggest, further push Iran into religious theocracy with the second rung of the regime rising above and coming out and oppressing the nation? In midst of all of that, does Iran actually have the firepower to last it through? Because word coming in from US and Israel is that it's going to go down to the bitter end. What is the bitter end? That remains to be seen.